Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure.
And today we're going to be looking at Project Hail Mary, Andy Weir's science fiction novel.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, so this one kind of has it all, I think. I mean, it's got this amnesia element, which we always love, and a lot of people compare it to The Martian, which was Andy Weir's first big hit.
Right.
But I think I like this one better.
I did too. I think this one was more engaging. I think the science was just as good.
Yeah.
And the characters I think were better.
Yeah, and the alien was amazing.
Yeah.
I thought that was just a really interesting.
It was such a clever way of approaching the alien encounter.
Yeah. Yeah, and just the overall kind of mystery of like hurtling through space and not knowing why you're there or what you're supposed to do.
Right, and then slowly uncovering those pieces.
Right.
Like, you wake up and you have no idea even who you are.
Yeah, you're just
And you have to figure out where you are.
yeah, you're in this like high gravity environment. You got these robotic arms.
Yeah.
That keep like
Helping you or hindering you?
yeah, and like a computer that's like giving you math problems.
Right, to keep your mind sharp.
Yeah, to like test you to see like are you coming back yet?
Right.
And just like little clues like that. I thought it was very well done how he kind of revealed
Totally.
the story.
Yeah, it's a slow burn, but it's so effective because you're right there with the protagonist.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And then you slowly kind of figure out like, oh, wow, I'm not just on some random spaceship. I'm on a mission to save humanity from this like sun-eating microbe called astrophage.
It's a doozy.
Yeah, right? Which is a pretty big deal. And I think that's something that Weir does really well is he takes these like really big, complex scientific ideas
Yeah.
and he makes them,
Understandable and
accessible
Yeah.
and compelling.
Yeah, and even though it's like, this kind of far-fetched scenario, it feels grounded. Absolutely, and you really buy into the science of it all. Like even though, there's obviously some liberties taken,
Yeah.
it feels like something that, given enough time and resources, we could actually achieve.
Right, right. And I thought it was interesting, too, how he kind of wove in the protagonist's backstory as like a microbiologist
Yes.
who like initially didn't believe,
In waterless life.
right, in waterless life. And then like, astrophage comes along and it's like, boom, yeah, in your face.
Everything you thought you knew is wrong.
And you have to like completely rethink your understanding of biology.
And the universe, really.
Yeah, which I love that. I love when like
Right.
science fiction kind of pushes those boundaries and makes you
Yeah.
question what you thought you knew.
Absolutely. And it also highlights, how little we actually know
Yeah.
about the universe and the potential for life out there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I guess that brings us to like the Hail Mary project itself,
Right. The mission.
the mission. So this is like humanity's last ditch effort, right?
Yeah.
To try to save ourselves from this astrophage threat. And they're basically sending this spaceship, the Hail Mary, to this distant star system, Halceti.
Which seems to be unaffected
Right, right.
by the astrophage.
Like that's the only star they can find that's not dimming.
Right.
And it's a one-way mission.
A one-way trip. Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy to think about. Like the people who signed up for this, they knew they were probably not coming back.
Yeah. It's a pretty big sacrifice.
Yeah. And then on top of that, they put them into these induced comas
Right.
to like avoid the psychological strain of interstellar travel.
Which is another interesting ethical dilemma.
Right.
Like, is it okay to do that to people?
Yeah. Is it ethical to basically put someone to sleep for years and years and then wake them up potentially in a situation where they're going to die?
Right. And not only that, but wake them up in a situation where they're the only hope for humanity.
Yeah. With like this immense pressure on their shoulders.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we pick up with our protagonist is he's waking up from this coma.
Right.
He has no memory of who he is or why he's there, and he's got to figure all this out.
Yeah. It's a heck of a wake-up call.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. And as he starts to explore the ship and piece together these clues, he realizes that he's not alone.
Oh, right.
There's another being on board.
And not just any being.
Yeah, an alien, a real live alien.
An alien from the system 40 Eridani.
Yeah, who they end up calling Rocky.
Rocky, yeah.
Which is adorable.
I love that name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they're also dealing with this astrophage threat.
Right. They've got their own sun that's being eaten by this microbe.
Yeah, so they've come to Tau Ceti looking for answers, too.
It's a cosmic coincidence.
Yeah, it's like, what are the chances, right?
Right.
But it's also like, kind of highlights that we're probably not alone in the universe,
Absolutely.
and that if there are other intelligent life forms out there,
Hmm.
they're probably facing similar challenges.
Right, and that maybe we can work together to solve them.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool about this book is it's not just about, humans versus aliens. It's a collaboration, this partnership between two very different species who are trying to figure out how to save themselves.
And it's so well done the way that portrays their interactions and their attempts to communicate.
Yeah,
It's so realistic and heartwarming at the same time.
Yeah, it's really sweet. And before we dive too much further into their partnership, I want to remind you all that the book Project Hail Mary is available for free below this video. So if you're enjoying this deep dive, definitely go check it out and read along with us.
Yeah, it's a real page turner.
Yeah. So one of the big discoveries that they make at Tau Ceti is this gas giant named Adrian.
Ah, yes, Adrian.
Yeah. And it turns out that this planet holds a vital clue to understanding astrophage.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about Adrian and what they find there.
So Adrian is this massive gas giant. It's like Jupiter on steroids. And in its upper atmosphere, they discover these microorganisms called tamoeba.
Tamoeba. Okay.
Yeah, and these tamoebas are nitrogen sensitive.
Interesting.
And it turns out that they have a symbiotic relationship with astrophage.
Oh, so wait, a symbiotic relationship?
Yeah,
So they work together in some way?
exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of just being, a destructive force, astrophage is actually part of this larger ecosystem, and the tamoeba are essential to its survival.
So that's interesting because it kind of flips the script, right?
Right.
It's not just about destroying astrophage anymore. It's about understanding this complex relationship
Absolutely.
and how these two life forms interact.
Right, and maybe finding a way to use that relationship to our advantage.
Right. Because if we can figure out how the Tomoeba control or influence astrophage,
Right.
then maybe we can do the same thing and save our own sun.
Exactly.
So that's a pretty big discovery, right?
It's huge.
It's like a major breakthrough.
Yeah, it gives them hope,
Yeah.
where before there was really none.
Right. Because before it was just like, how do we stop this thing from eating our sun?
Right.
And now it's like, okay, maybe there's a way to work with it or manipulate it.
Right.
But, it's not going to be easy.
Oh, no, it's far from over.
They still have a lot of challenges ahead of them.
Yeah, figuring out the specifics of that relationship and how to apply it to our own situation is a whole other ballgame.
Right. And they're still millions of miles away from home.
Yeah, and time is ticking.
Yeah. So we'll have to dive into that more in the next part of our deep dive.
Absolutely. There's so much more to unpack.
So stay tuned and we'll see you then.
It's interesting when you think about it, right? Like initially, our protagonist, he's just like, I gotta destroy this astrophage thing. Like it's the enemy.
Yeah, get rid of it, nuke it from orbit.
Exactly. And then they find out about this whole symbiotic relationship with the Tamoeba, and suddenly it's not so simple.
It's like, wait a minute. This thing that we thought was just a destructive force is actually like part of a bigger system.
Yeah, part of an ecosystem, and maybe even essential for the survival of another species.
Right. And that's kind of a running theme in the book, right?
Absolutely.
Like everything's connected.
Yeah.
And you can't just look at things in isolation.
Right. You got to see the big picture.
Yeah. So how do they even begin to unravel this symbiotic relationship?
Well, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine trying to
Yeah.
decipher a conversation between two beings who speak completely different languages.
Right.
That's essentially what they're doing.
It's like they're trying to crack a code.
Exactly. They have to observe,
Yeah.
experiment, piece together the puzzle.
Yeah. And they don't exactly have a lot to work with, right?
No, they're on a spaceship.
Yeah.
Millions of miles from home with limited resources.
Yeah, it's not like they could just Google how to solve this problem.
Right, exactly.
But that's also what makes it so interesting.
It is.
To see how they use their ingenuity
Their creativity.
and their scientific knowledge to come up with these really clever solutions.
Absolutely. And they have to because the fate of Earth depends on it.
Right.
There's this one scene I love
Oh, yeah.
where Rocky's trying to figure out how to cool the Hail Mary
Okay.
because it's overheating.
Right.
And he uses astrophage.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he uses astrophage to create a cooling system.
How does that even work?
Well, remember, astrophage is incredibly hot to humans.
Right. It burns you just to touch it.
Exactly. But to Iridians, it feels cold.
Right. Because of their different biology.
Yeah. So Rocky uses that difference to his advantage.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Right.
Who would have thought that the thing that's trying to kill us could also be used to save us?
It's a great example of thinking outside the box
Yeah.
and using what you have available to solve a problem.
Yeah. And it really highlights the power of collaboration.
Right.
Like two different species
Yeah.
coming together.
With different perspectives.
Yeah, and different ways of thinking.
And they come up with something that neither of them could have done on their own.
Right. That's so cool.
It is.
Yeah. And speaking of collaboration,
Yeah.
there were some really funny scenes in the book, too,
Oh, so many.
where they're trying to explain things to each other.
Yeah.
Like basic concepts that we take for granted,
Right?
but are completely foreign to the other species.
It's hilarious.
Like there's this one part where Rocky is trying to understand how humans see.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, wait, you can hear light?
With your eye.
And the protagonist is just like,
Yeah.
no, that's not how it works.
But he can't grasp it
Yeah.
because Iridians perceive light as sound.
Right, so to them, seeing is like hearing.
Exactly.
Wow, that's so weird.
It is, but it's also like it
Yeah.
makes you realize how much of our understanding of the world is based on our own senses
Right.
and our own experiences.
Yeah, like we just assume that everyone perceives things the same way we do.
Exactly.
But that's obviously not the case.
Not at all.
But even though there are these like funny moments
Yeah.
and these kind of heartwarming moments of connection,
Right.
the stakes are still incredibly high.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're still racing against time to save Earth.
And things get really tense.
Yeah. So before we get to the nail-biting climax of the story,
Okay.
I want to remind you all again that Project Hail Mary is available for free below this video.
Yeah, go check it out.
So, you were saying that things get really tense.
Oh, yeah. So remember those Tomiba samples they collected?
Yeah.
Well, they encounter a major setback.
Oh.
Samples aren't breeding
Oh, no.
as expected.
So their plan to save Earth might be doomed.
Yeah, it's a real gut punch.
So what do?
Well, they don't give up.
Oh.
They launch into a frenzy of experimentation,
Okay.
trying everything they can think of to figure out why the Tomibas aren't thriving.
Right, because they're like the key to everything.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
they can't get them to breed, then it's all over.
It's back to the drawing board. And they're running out of time.
Right, and they're millions of miles from home.
Yeah, it's a desperate situation.
And on top of all that,
Yeah.
the protagonist starts to realize that he might not make it back to Earth.
Right.
Like, even if they do figure out how to save humanity,
Yeah.
he might have to sacrifice himself.
It's a heartbreaking realization.
Yeah, so it's like this really emotional moment
It is.
where he has to decide
Yeah.
what's more important.
His own life.
Right.
Or the survival of billions of people.
And that's where we'll leave it for now.
Yeah, cliffhanger.
Tune in next time to find out what happens.
It's a tough choice, you know?
Yeah, to be in that position where it's like
Right.
your life versus like billions of other lives.
And you're the only one who can make that decision.
It's like a no-win situation almost.
Yes. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So what does he decide to do?
Well, he chooses to sacrifice himself. He realizes that the only way to ensure that the Tomiba samples get back to Earth safely is to stay behind and pilot the Hail Mary on a trajectory that'll slingshot the payload towards the solar system.
So he's basically giving up his own chance of survival.
Yeah, he knows he's not going to make it back home.
That's heavy.
It's a really powerful moment in the book.
Yeah, because it would be so easy to just be like,
Right.
I'm going to try to save myself too, you know?
Yeah, every instinct would be screaming at you to get back to Earth.
Yeah, but he puts the needs of humanity above his own.
He does, and it's really inspiring.
It shows like the best of humanity,
Absolutely.
even in the face of like impossible odds.
Right. Even when everything seems hopeless.
So what happens to him then?
Well, he doesn't die right away.
Okay.
He still has some time left, and he finds a new purpose.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he meets a group of young Iridians,
Okay.
and he starts teaching them about science and technology.
Wow. So he's like passing on his knowledge to the next generation.
Exactly. He's ensuring that his journey, his sacrifice, will have a lasting impact.
That's beautiful.
It is. It's like a bittersweet ending.
Yeah, because it's sad that he can't go home.
Right.
But it's also hopeful because he's found a new way to contribute.
Yeah. And he's making a difference in the lives of these young aliens.
And who knows, maybe someday humans and Iridians will meet again.
Maybe they'll even be able to work together to explore the galaxy.
That would be awesome.
It would.
So yeah, I think this book is a great example of like
Right.
what science fiction does best.
Absolutely.
It makes you think.
About big questions.
Yeah, about the universe, about humanity, about our place in the cosmos.
And it does it in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Yeah, and even though it deals with some really heavy themes,
Right.
it also has a lot of humor
Oh, yeah.
and heart.
It's a great balance.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a book that will make you laugh, make you cry, and make you think,
And keep you on the edge of your seat.
Definitely check out Project Hail Mary.
You won't regret it.
And as we've mentioned a couple times already, you can find it for free below this video.
So go grab a copy and start reading.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive.
Until then, keep exploring.